Hello everyone, welcome to Dnyanadeep Academy. This is our daily answer writing series for geography optional. So what we do, we post one question on our Telegram channel on a daily basis, and in the evening we discuss answer for these questions on our YouTube platform. Now what is our objective while we are starting this initiative, and we are going to follow this initiative maybe for next 100-200 days and trying to cover whole of the syllabus of UPSC geography optional. I have three objectives in mind. What three objectives I am talking about? So first and foremost, when you are following this series, so on a daily basis you are writing some answers, on a daily basis you are watching to this particular video, you will be learning how to write optional answers. Now when it comes to geography, it is also present in general studies. So what will happen, most of the time your answers for geography will be that of general studies, and with these particular videos, with this particular discussion, you will learn what changes are necessary to your GS answers so that it looks like a optional answer. Fine. So that is the first thing you are going to learn. Next thing, you are going to prepare. So whenever you are going to write, you should be prepared first, right? So this particular series will also help you in preparing your geography optional. Other than that, one more thing which comes as a bonus, when you will go through these discussions, you will learn what was missing in your notes or what was missing in your preparation or approach, and I am expecting accordingly you will also be developing your notes. Fine. So that is my objective, that is my approach when I am coming up with this particular series. So if you have any queries, or if you are planning to join geography optional course, so you can join our geography optional course, which will be starting somewhere around first week of June. So you can contact me on this number 770-9495-797, or you have any other query regarding UPSC civil services preparation, even then feel free to connect with me. We will discuss that particular part in depth. Coming to our question. This was a very static question. This is UPSC PYQ from population and settlement part. So first part which we are taking is population and settlement, and in this population and settlement part there is growth and distribution of population. So we have to discuss how there is growth of population worldwide as well as distribution of population worldwide. And on that particular part there is this question which is saying, write a short note on similarities in the population distribution of southern continents and reasons for the same. Now when we talk about southern continents, here we are talking about South America, here we are talking about southern parts of Africa as well as Australia. Now when we go through these continents and look at the population distribution, we find some similarities. We will tell what similarities we are going to find. At the same time, there are certain reasons, very specific reasons to all these regions which are resulting into this kind of distribution. Now when it comes to this particular question, this question can also be asked in GS, or even when you are studying general studies. As a virtue of general studies, you will know how population is distributed all across the world, and in that you might also be knowing how population is distributed in the southern continents of the world. Now what different you are supposed to make when it comes to geography optional answer. So we will be learning that particular part here, how you can change your GS answer to make it more look like a geography optional answer. Fine. So that was about question and what you are supposed to think on this particular part. Now let us break this question and how we are supposed to answer this particular question. So first and foremost, I'll go for intro. Like there are various approaches to introduce a question. You can have a fact based introduction or a definition based introduction, or there can be some recent example given so as to introduce. Now if I look at this particular question, I think more of a fact based introduction is appropriate. I'll not be going for any definition based approach because there is nothing to define. Also there are no recent scenarios which have developed which I can quote here. So when it comes to fact, what kind of facts I can mention? So in introduction, I can provide some proportion of population residing in this particular region. So that is my fact-based approach where I am talking about some facts, some numbers. Now I have not given numbers. Why I am not given numbers, or I am not even going to discuss specificities of the answer, the details of the answer. I am going to give you approach, or I am going to tell you how this particular question was to be written and what you are supposed to understand in this particular. That is my approach through this daily answer writing series. So find some number. You can have some number which can be put in this introduction. Other than that, you can also mention the distribution of population and what are the various geographical factors which are affecting distribution of population. Now, this is the point where your answer starts to look more like a geography optional answer. If I go for a fact, if I mention some generic facts about the distribution of population, it can also be done when it comes to general studies answer. So what my preference is to go for some geography specific topics or some geography specific points. So I would be mentioning what are the various factors which affect distribution of population, and specifically I am going to mention some geographical factors. Other than that, I can also talk about environmental determinism. Now, what is environmental determinism? So, environmental determinism says that it is the environment which dictates our choices. Whatever choice we as humans make are coming out of the environmental conditions which are situated in, right? And if I look at the distribution similarity when it comes to all these three continents, I find that this is driven by a concept called as environmental determinism, and that is the point where again you are going into geography optional. Now, if you come to environmental determinism, it is nowhere mentioned in population geography. Environmental determinism is the term I am using from paper 1 section B, point number 1, where I have to discuss geographical thoughts or perspectives in human geography. And in perspectives in human geography, I have something called as environmental determinism, which says it is the environment which is determining what kind of choices we as a humans make, right? And when I look at the distribution of population and some geographical factors which are resulting into this distribution of population, it is nothing but the environmental determinism. Okay, so this kind of thing was supposed to be done when it comes to this particular question, because here I am going to change my GS answer into optional answer. Now, what follows next? Let's go to body. In body part, you just have to mention what are the similarities. So I have some similarities. If I go to Africa or Southern America or Australia, what I find, most of the population is located along the coast, okay, on coastal margin or on the marginal regions, most of the population is located. And what are the fundamental reasons? Why do we have most of the population located along the marginal areas? So in each of the continent, there is some geographical condition. See how you are turning this particular answer into geography optional answer. If I go to the history of these particular areas, there is colonial history, and most of the colonies were on the coastal margins, and that is why most of the population historically has been along these coastal margins. But that is history answer, right? When I am quoting historical perspective, so that may make look my answer as a history answer. What I want is it should look like geography optional answer, and for that what I am going to give, I am going to give some geographical factors as the reason. So I am going to mention here there is desert or Congo basin in Africa, and which is making central parts of Africa inhospitable. Similarly, I have reasons for South America as well as Australia, right? So all these things I have mentioned ki how I have distribution of population throughout these regions. Other than that, I am also going to draw a map showing concentration of population on the coastal and marginal regions, and finally I am going to conclude. Again, in conclusion, I can talk about environmental determinism. I can also talk about what are the trends which we are witnessing when we see population settlements, right? So there are some trends emerging. So find out these trends, find out recent debates, like what type of settlements are developing now in Africa or in South America or in Australia or across the globe, and you can mention those things in your conclusion. Fine. So that is how you were supposed to conclude for this particular question. Now for today's daily answer writing, we had 2 questions. So I have one more question to discuss. Now this is the question where we are talking about there are considerable demographic similarities between West European nations and Japan, right? And time again, this is a contemporary issue, though this is a PYQ from, I guess it is somewhere from 2017 if I am not wrong. So if I go 7 years back, I had this particular debate of demographic situation of Western Europe and that of Japan, and even today I have the same particular discussion. So I will call this particular issue as a contemporary issue. So whenever we talk about population and settlements, or typically population distribution across the globe or population growth of the world, time and again we end up referring these areas. Time and again I have given you examples of Japan, Germany or West Europe. Fine. And there are multiple occasions where we find that there are similarities in these regions. Fine. Now let us try to introduce. So what kind of introduction I can go for and make my answer look more like geography optional answer. So one introduction I can go for is demographic transition phase of European nations and Japan. Directly straightforward, you can state what is the stage of demographic transition. I can say like they are in the late 4th stage or 5th stage of demographic transition where they are witnessing decline in the population, right? That kind of introduction is very straight, very bold, because you are directly talking in the language of geography optional. Okay, so that is something you are supposed to go forward to. Then other than that, if you have some recent phenomena, right, related to population decline or any crisis coming out of that, you can also mention that particular fact. So that is also welcome. Okay, so that is about introduction. I am making a very straightforward introduction. Then when it comes to demographic similarities, reasons and consequences, nobody has asked us consequences. Fine. So that is where you have to develop this approach. You are not asked something, but you are supposed to learn that there is something hidden which needs to be mentioned. So if I am not asked about consequences, even then in one line or in a few words, I will mention what are the consequences of these emerging situations. Okay, so let's look at similarities. So when it comes to similarities, I have low birth rates in both of the areas. I have mentioned reasons. Aging of population is a big problem. Further, there is problem of population decline, increasing life expectancy, urbanization is an issue, immigration is an issue. So these are the issues which we are witnessing in these areas. And finally, once you have mentioned these issues, you have mentioned reasons, you also mention some consequences. If possible, find some case study based on the same. Okay, what situations are emerging? Also, if there is some contemporary issue such as the situation which we witnessed in COVID, you can mention that also. You can also take this forward to a phenomena called as deglobalization. Okay, how there is a process of deglobalization and how these countries are getting affected. Okay, so this is something you did not learn in your static part. What I am doing, every day I am reading newspaper, and out of that newspaper I am coming up with some or the other phenomena, and I am trying to relate those phenomena in my syllabus. Okay, so if this needs to be continued, you can mention some case study. If this needs to be concluded, you can go straight forward to deglobalization. Just Google search how deglobalization is affecting aging countries, right? There is some positive, some negative you will find, and if you pick those lines, you will be in a very good position to conclude this particular question. Fine. So this is the process. This is the process of learning. Every single day you will learn something new. In every topic you will have something to add through this series. So please continue watching this series. We'll see you in next part. Thank you.